Good evening and welcome to Future Focus. I'm your host, Delfeayo Marsalis. Many of us have heard of Venus and Serena Williams. Fewer of us perhaps have heard of the great Arthur Ashe, and even fewer have heard of Althea Gibson, who played tennis back in the 1950s. So we hope that you enjoy our rendition of her story. Here we go.
Not long after the Great Depression and before World War II, most folks in America didn't have much money, but they sure knew how to have a good time. To keep kids occupied and out of trouble, several streets in Harlem called Play Streets were closed off to automobiles and used for athletic competition.
Althea Gibson has been playing all day and refuses to let the other kids play.
If you want to take my paddle, you have to earn it. So unless you can beat me at paddle tennis or fisticuffs, you best go back and skip on your jump rope.
Few tried, and even fewer succeeded. Althea mastered every sport she learned. Paddle tennis, basketball, swish, and pool, ping pong, football, touchdown, bowling, kaboom, strike, and track and field.
Which was especially useful when Detective Claude Cargill, the local truant officer, caught her playing hooky from school.
All right, Miss Gibson, let's get you back to school.
Back? I didn't go in the first place.
With a keen nose for staying in trouble, Althea would sometimes play sports all day and ride subway trains all night to avoid her father's discipline. It was tough living for the rebellious 14-year-old.
One day, the street athletic director, Buddy Walker, convinced Fred Johnson to stop by to see Althea play. Johnson was Harlem's finest tennis instructor.
Not bad for a street road, but how do you think you fare up against sophisticated competition? Sophisticated, rough, young, old, tall, short, fat, skinny. They all look the same when I finish with them. Very good. You don't lack confidence or skill. Meet me at the Cosmo Party Club Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. For what? 8 a.m. and don't be late.
You lost your way, poor thing. The Salvation Army is on 125th Street. And what are you doing with that paddle? We play real tennis here.
Where's Mr. Johnson?
Oh, Mr. Johnson, huh? He only teaches serious tennis students. If you all weren't so old, I'd give each of you a real serious whooping, military style.
Miss Gibson, you're late. Now let's go get started. We have plenty of work to do.
She can't go on the court dressed like that. We have rules around here.
Thank you, Miss Singleton. I'm quite familiar with the rules. After all, I wrote them.
We gave Althea a rough time because that's how youngsters were treated by older folks back then. Not disrespected, but tough and tough. Problem is, she was already plenty tough by the time she got here. That girl was something else. Tall, fast, smart, and tenacious. She hated to lose at anything. When Mr. Johnson showed Althea a new shot, she practiced it hour after hour, day after day, until she could at least make it 19 out of 20 times.
Roll those feet into position quickly. Forehand, backhand, turn and plant. Forwards, backwards, lob, volley, retreat. You're too young to be so lazy. Hustle it up.
Never saw anything like it before or since as a cosmopolitans. We sure will.
We loved her like our own daughter. We were hard on her, but not as nearly as what she would face playing with professionals. Girl, remember that time that little girl was heckling Althea and she lost the match?
Oh yeah, instead of shaking Aaron Davis' hand, she threw it on her rack and tried to pummel that kid. That Althea.
Mr. Johnson, why don't you take her back to the street courts and let the real tennis players play? Under Fred Johnson's tutelage, Althea Gibson gained a greater understanding of tennis and the mental toughness required in major league competition.
Althea Gibson also loved to play the alto saxophone and sing in amateur talent competitions. At the age of 19, she packed up her racket and saxophone and moved to Wilmington, North Carolina to study under Dr. Hubert Eaton.
Being a southern town, folks were segregated by race, and Althea had a difficult time growing accustomed to southern customs. Good morning.
Well, what do we have here?
This is my favorite tennis racket.
Isn't that nice? Now get in the back where you belong.
What?
If it's trouble you come up in here looking for, it's trouble you found. Now either get in that there colored section or get off this here bus.
Look, I'm from New York City and
I don't care if you're from Timbuktu. Don't get uppity with me, gal.
But there's only 2 people on this bus.
Can't read and you can't count neither.
Hey, you don't have to be so
If you
rough.
love them so much, then get on off too. Now get.
Althea!
How do you mean?
We were just off the bus and she went to sit in the colored section.
And you got off too?
Things won't always be this way, dearie.
Look at you! Now, Althea, if you're going to stay down here, you've got to realize it's a much different way of living. We have a tennis court in our backyard and make a good living, but we're sensible about things.
I call it something else.
It's a fight we're all fighting in our own way. Wilmington is not as progressive as New York City. As a Negro, you have to sit behind the screens in the public buses. We usually eat at home, but if you were to go out, you would eat at colored-only restaurants, shop at the colored-only stores, use the Negro restroom facilities, and drink water from the fountains marked colored. That's just the way it is.